Okay, good morning. So today we'll start our classes. Our subject is environment impact and risk assessment. It's an elective offered. Okay, so first of all, we'll start with an introduction. What do you mean by environment impact assessment? You know that there is always a contradiction between the concept of development and environmental protection, right? So if development is the choice, there will be certain compromise made on the environmental condition, right? A lot of environmental disasters or a lot of environmental fluctuations in the environmental characteristics will be attributed as a result of this developmental project. Okay, so here comes the relevance of this subject. The relevance of this subject, environment impact assessment, will be coming into consideration when you speak about the striking the balance between development projects and the impact or risk associated with environment, right? So environment impact and risk assessment, that's our subject. Okay, so now my question is, what is the purpose of carrying out an environment impact assessment? If an environment impact assessment is not carried out, okay, the degree of harm caused to the environment, okay, or the degree of environmental issues arising due to this particular development project will not be taken into consideration, or there won't be any method by which a quantification or an assessment can be made to the damage occurring to the environment due to this developmental activity be carried out. Okay, so we can briefly say that minimizing the effect, okay, we can briefly say that minimizing the effect can be the minimizing the effect on environment can be obtained if a proper impact assessment is being carried out. Okay, to be more clear, I can explain this with the help of a demonstration. Okay, I can show you a diagram with which you will be getting more clarity. Suppose in the normal conditions, this is the activity going on. Okay, if no impact assessment is done, okay, this is the normal environmental condition going on. You have decided to start an activity. You have decided to start some kind of activity. For example, you have decided to start a mining project. Okay, so what will happen? Due to this mining project, some amount of impact will be caused to the environment. Okay, so normally if you have the value here, this is the value of environmental condition if no development project was carried out. But if you have carried out a development project and there was some impact happen to the environment, so here you can note down this value as X. Okay, you can write it as X. Now what happened? The same developmental project you have carried out after conducting an impact study. So after conducting an impact study and implementing some of the principles by which there can be a reduction obtained in the impact, or there can be a reduction obtained in the risk. Okay, you have conducted a study and you are carrying out this work. So there can be a reduction obtained here, and this reduction can be noted down by a variable Y. Okay, so here you can see that there is a difference if no impact study was carried out, and if an impact study has carried out, there occurs a reduction of X minus Y. Okay, so this impact can be occurring to different environment. For example, if you consider soil, if you consider air, if you consider the aquatic life, if you consider the displacement of life, these are the different parameters which can be quantified, or the impact or risk happening to these different parameters can be quantified if you go with a proper impact assessment and risk management plan. Are you understanding? So here what I have told is, without considering any impact assessment or without using any tool for assessing how much of impact has occurred, there was a risk obtained with a value of X. Okay, once the impact assessment is carried out, you can see that a value of Y is obtained. So there can be a reduction of impact with a magnitude of X minus Y if you are using this environment impact assessment. Environment impact assessment is a tool, okay, a tool which can be used for minimizing the effect on the environment. So you can underline this thing, minimizing the effect. You can okay, you can understand this thing for minimizing the effect on environment. That is the basic objective of carrying out an environment impact assessment. Okay, so that's it. So I hope what is meant by environment impact assessment and why it is conducted, this is clear to you. Okay, now environment impact assessment can, in other words, be said as a tool. It is a tool which can be used for decision making. Okay, if you are having different alternatives, you have a proposed project in hand and you have different alternative options available. So what you can do is, implementing this environment impact assessment tool, this environment impact assessment tool can be used as a help for decision making. You can check which of the following options. Okay, for one particular project, suppose you have 3 different options available: option A, option B, and option C, right? So quantify the environmental effect occurring due to these 3 options and you can pick the best. So environment impact assessment can be said as a tool for helping in the decision making. What kind of decision? The decision can be made by taking into consideration which of the following will be having a very reduced impact. Okay, the reduction in the impact is most important. Okay, that can be reduction in impact can be decided by using this tool of environment impact assessment. Okay, now let us discuss about the different functions of environment impact assessment. Okay, let us see what are the different functions of EIA. Functions of EIA. First of all, it can be, okay, we'll write first and then we'll discuss. Identify the impact. Second, quantification and measurement. Third, mitigation of impact through EMP. Monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation. These are the different functions of environment impact assessment. Okay, so please look at this. The different functions of impact are, first point is identifying the impact. Okay, if you have a project in mind, identify what is the impact caused to the environment. So if you are studying the impact caused to the environment, understand that each and every attribute of the environment need to be considered while identifying the impact. Okay, so that is important, identification of impact. Secondly, You have identified the different impacts. For example, how this particular activity, identification of impact in the sense, I can give you an example. The project is a mining work. You are carrying out a mining work. Okay. So identify the impact, how air is getting affected due to this mining work. Of course, you know that air pollution will be caused due to this mining work, right? So how the air is getting affected, that is one impact on air. Then impact on the surrounding ecosystem. If persons or animals are living near to that particular mining area, definitely there will be a bad impact on their living condition due to this mining project being carried out, right? So how the impact is caused on that particular living environment. Then if a water body is present due to mining activity, definitely the water body will be having certain form of impact. Okay, so first of all, consider the project and identify the different impacts occurred. Okay, then secondly, the identified impacts need to be quantified. Okay, quantification means we are qualitatively saying that this much degree of impact will be caused to air, this much degree of impact will be caused to water body, this much impact will be caused to the ecosystem, like that, right? That is a qualitative aspect. But in addition to that qualitative aspect, we need to have a quantification. We should be picking up the degree of impact occurred quantitatively. Okay, and we need to measure how much is the impact. So some tools need to be developed which can quantify and which can measure the degree of impact occurring to the different environment. Third step or third function is mitigation of impact through EMP. Here EMP stands for Environment Management Plan. Okay, so definitely the impact will be identified and they will be quantified and measured. Now you have to prepare an EMP. EMP means Environment Management Plan, which is comprehensively containing the activities which need to be implemented so that there is a reduction in the risk. Okay, there is a reduction in risk or impact happening to the environment. Okay, so that need to be mitigated by developing a suitable environment management plan. And finally, after implementation of environment management plan, the different attributes need to be monitored and the different attributes need to be evaluated. So upon evaluation, in the second step, you have understood that how much is the degree of distress cost. You have quantified and you have measured. In the third step, you have implemented the environment management plan. Okay, so with the implementation of environment management plan, you can understand that how much improvement has occurred if you are monitoring and evaluating the different aspects. Is it clear? So this is how the different functions of environment impact assessment can be explained. Okay, so that's it. So I hope you got an idea, you got an introduction, and you got an idea about the different functions of environment impact assessment. Okay, now let us have some knowledge. You need to remember certain years. 1969. You need to remember certain years associated with this environment impact assessment in Indian context. Okay, in 1969, National Environmental Policy Act, Environmental Policy Act came into existence in India. Okay, in 1986, this act was modified as it was National Environmental Policy Act, and in 1986 it was Environment Protection Act. So as a continuation of the Environment Protection Act, in 1994, EIA, that is Environment Impact Assessment, was formulated. Okay, this is some basic knowledge about the history of environment impact assessment in Indian conditions. Are you getting it? Okay, so this is how we are studying the history of environment impact assessment. Okay. Now, lastly, we are going to discuss about the different stages in environment impact assessment. Okay. Now, you know what are the functions of environmental impact assessment. Now, for carrying out an environmental impact assessment work, there are different stages. There are 4 stages of EIA. Okay. The 4 stages of EIA are: the first stage is known as screening. Second stage is known as scoping. Third stage is known as public consultation. And fourth stage is known as the appraisal. These are the 4 stages of EIA. I'll note it down. 4 stages of EIA. First one, screening. Second one, scoping. Third one, public consultation. And fourth one is appraisal. These are the different stages of environment impact assessment. You can note it down. Okay, we'll be discussing it in detail. Okay, in the coming sessions we'll be discussing the each and every stage of EIA in detail. Okay, now based on the extent of impact, okay, based on the extent of impact, there need to be a classification of works based on extent of impact. So based on the extent of impact, the works can be classified as category A and category B. This is how the works are classified. Okay, different developmental projects, we have conducted the impact, we have quantified the impact caused due to these different projects, and we have quantified it as and we have categorized the project as category A project and category B project. So category A project means it will be including the major projects like mining, then dam construction, etc. Okay, so such projects which are causing a greater impact will be categorized under category A. Now, category B, and it is mandatory that a EIA study need to be conducted for this. EIA is mandatory for this category A works. Category B can be divided into category B1 and category B2. Okay, based on the degree of impact it is caused, category B can be further subdivided into category B1 and category B2, of which category B1, again you have EIA is mandatory. EIA is mandatory in the case of category B1. Okay, so this is how the classification of works is done based on the extent of impact cost. Okay, this is just an intro class. We'll be discussing in detail about all these things, so don't worry. And finally, the impact assessment will be carried out by a committee known as the EAC, which means Environmental Appraisal Committee. Okay, this is the name of the committee, Environmental Appraisal Committee. Okay, so that is about the basic things regarding the environment impact and risk assessment. Okay, so I hope you got some basic idea regarding this. The rest of the topics we'll be discussing in detail in the coming sessions. Okay.